Clorinde and Alhaitham are coming soon in the version 4.7 of Genshin Impact. Normally in my videos I would recommend skipping DPSs to pull for supports instead, since this is more worth it in the long run, especially for Rena's having her rerun soon, but this time is different. Hi, this is Earlbedo. I will help you decide whether to pull for Clorinde or Alhaitham in the first phase of version 4.7. We will talk about their roles, talents, and playstyle. We will analyze which one is using the better element and reaction. Let's also talk about their teams, as well as discuss if they are F2P friendly, how good they are in exploration, and lastly, what are their long-term and overall value. And as I always say, this video is made for F2P and low spenders in mind, so most of the things that I will say will revolve around that fact. But even if you have the budget to get both, I think this is a good way to gauge or see if getting both is worth it. Now let's get started. Let's first talk about their role in the team, their talents, and how they should be played so you can see which one is more suited for your playstyle. They both have similarities and differences. First, they are both mainly a normal attack main DPS. The champion duelist of Fontaine wields Electro while the scholar uses Dendro, which means they can both trigger quicken, which we'll talk more about later. They also both have certain mechanics that you should be actively aware of, starting with Clorinde. I made a whole pre-release guide explaining how she works, so you can check that out later, but essentially she focuses on dealing damage with her normal attack through her skill and Bond of Life. Bond of Life is a relatively new mechanic that started in Fontaine. The catch here is you need to be a little aware of how much Bond of Life you have to maximize Clorinde's damage and to make sure she survives. So unlike characters like Ayato, who you just need to spam normal attacks, she has a more similar playstyle as Arlecchino, but she has more survivability since she can heal herself more often and when off-field with other party members, unlike Arlecchino. To use Clorinde, you need to activate her skill to be in this cool state where she uses pistolet attacks that deals damage and pierce through enemies. You can recast the skill to deal damage and heal herself depending on the Bond of Life you have. Her passives are also pretty offensive, adding damage to her normal attack and elemental burst, and also adding crit rate to herself. Overall, we can say that she has a more high-risk, high-reward playstyle compared to Alhaitham due to Bond of Life. If Clorinde has Bond of Life, Alhaitham on the other hand has this what we call Chisel Light Mirror, which are these green diamonds floating. If he has at least one of this, his attacks will be converted to Dendro. He can get stacks by using his elemental skill and burst and doing a charge or plunging attack. With that, there are certain attack patterns you should follow to make sure that Alhaitham's attacks are converted to Dendro to deal massive damage. One combo he can do is to use his burst immediately, then perform normal attacks until the Chisel Light Mirrors are used. Then use his skill to plunge, then do a charge attack to regain stacks again. There are many other attack patterns, but this is just one. Because of the need to maintain stacks, Alhaitham needs to burst on cooldown unlike Clorinde, who just needs to burst when available. In summary, for Clorinde, you need to maintain her Bond of Life to deal massive damage while making sure she is alive while waiting for her to heal herself. For Alhaitham, you need to be aware of the stacks you have to maintain the Dendro damage. Both of them are more challenging to play than most characters in Genshin, and since they appear to have similar playstyle, I think you really need to at least use the trial first to get a grasp and feel on how they perform their attacks. Clorinde has this cool pistol shots and fast playstyle, while Alhaitham has this more of a relaxed but heavy attacks. Before we continue, if you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to my channel because I make Genshin Impact guides like this almost every week. Now let's talk about the most important part on which their damage mainly comes from, their elements and reactions, and also their team comps. Electro and Dendro have a lot of similarity. Electro is an offensive element that not only focuses on damage but also provides energy to the team. Meanwhile, Dendro could be a little offensive in the sense that it helps other elements trigger strong reactions. In this note, they can be considered both offensive and supportive elements. Electro is one of my favorite elements in the game because of this. No, not that silly. No, but really because it has a lot of reactions that I enjoy. Many might say it is not the strongest, but this makes Electro characters like Clorinde more flexible in terms of their team comps. Electro's strongest reaction that will give you big numbers is Aggravate, which is achieved by applying Dendro then Electro or vice versa to trigger Quicken, then applying Electro again to the enemy. It is a catalyzed reaction that provides a flat damage bonus to your damage that crits. This is very simple and easy to do, especially with Clorinde's normal attack, which are mostly Electro. Clorinde can also do a quick bloom reaction just like Cyno, where she does not only deal damage through her normal attacks, but also by triggering Hyper Bloom, which is one of the strongest in game. Another team which is one of my favorite is the Taser team. Here, the whole team contributes not only by dealing damage through their reaction, but also their personal damage through their normal attacks and skill or burst. Next, with the introduction of Jevru's, Overload has finally become more worth it to play. Using this team can now be comparable to other reactions as long as you have Jevru's. Finally, she can also do a hyper carry team where you pair her up with party members that focus on buffing her normal attacks such as Yunjin, or attack buffers like Bennett and Sarah, and Viridescent Venerer wearers like Sucrose or Kazuha. Overall, Clorinde has a wide range of choices in terms of teams. Some might not be the strongest in the game, but the introduction of new characters like Jevru's makes Clorinde very flexible. For Alhaitham, sadly, being a Dendro prohibits him to work on Animo and Geo. Knowing Animo characters can wear the Viridescent Venerer set, this is a little sad. But the good thing is, Dendro reactions are one of the strongest in game. Alhaitham has two main teams. First is a spread team which is very similar to Aggravate. Just trigger Quicken, then apply Dendro after instead of Electro. As mentioned earlier, this reaction is very strong and easy to trigger. The next team is Hyper Bloom team, which again, similar to Clorinde's team. Here, Alhaitham's role is to deal damage through his normal attacks, but more importantly to apply consistent Dendro. So you need to pair him up with a consistent off-field EM build Electro user here. There aren't many other teams you can put him into. There is a Burning team, but as of now it is not really worth it. We might wait for Natlan to see if it is. As you can see, Alhaitham has fewer teams than Clorinde. Furthermore, he cannot work with strong supports like Kazuha or utilize Bennett like Clorinde can. However, the team Alhaitham can utilize are among the strongest in game, so it is not a total loss. If we are talking about meta, Dendro has been owning the crown for a while now, and if you think about it, only a few enemies are immune to Dendro compared to Electro. So if you prefer a character that is more flexible and has more options for team comps, then definitely choose Clorinde. For sure you will enjoy experimenting on her teams. However, if you want to focus on having the strongest teams, like Spread or Hyper Bloom and building a meta team, Alhaitham is the way to go. Now that you know what are their strengths and teams, who among them outputs more damage? As of now, we cannot fully confirm the numbers Clorinde can output since she still needs testing. But based on her multipliers, I think Alhaitham has an upper hand here. Alhaitham is on the same tier as Neuvillette and Arlecchino in terms of DPS, and that is a fact. So if you want a strong DPS that is already proven and tested, then pick Alhaitham. But then again, it might be a little unfair for Clorinde since we still have to test her. If you have time, you can wait for a few days and wait for Clorinde's review. Another important question to answer is if the characters you will be pulling are F2P friendly. Clorinde's Ascension status crit rate. That makes her easier to build in terms of weapons. That is because if you do not have crit weapons, you can opt to use easier to obtain weapons like Lion's Roar without worrying about crit. And you can also use the Star Glitter weapon here. Anyone can basically get it. So far, Clorinde has a wide variety of weapon choices compared to other DPSs. Alhaitham, although his Ascension status Dendro damage, still has a lot of F2P options. For instance, since he is not purely attack scaling, he can use a 3-star weapon Harbinger of Dawn, which is actually crazy. Just like Clorinde, he has a lot of F2P weapons too, so both of them are essentially F2P friendly. How about the artifact sets? Alhaitham has two main artifact sets, which are Deepwood Memories and Gilded Dreams, which are luckily in the same domain but are not craftable yet. But if we check Clorinde's list of artifacts, she can use Gladiator's Finale, which is more efficient since she can slap Glad to her, then farm for her best slot, which is the Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy, while also crafting for Thundering Fury. In terms of artifact farming, Clorinde is more efficient, so if you find yourself a little unlucky with the artifact gacha system, go for Clorinde. Another thing we can talk about is exploration. This will likely be more important for early ARs. In this section, Alhaitham will most likely be the winner since he can use his skill to teleport in hard to reach terrains. Plus, he is a tall male character, which means he runs faster and covers more distance. Let's talk about their overall worth in your account. In terms of damage and how often you will use them in the Spiral Abyss, I think both of them are very valuable. It will really depend on what you need and what characters you have on your account. Dendro heavily relies on reactions and interaction with other elements, So if you have a consistent off-field hydro like Xingqiu or Yelan, and consistent Electro applicators like Kuki Shinobu, Theshel, and Yae Miko, Alhaitham might be more worth it since you can easily build a meta team that will surely annihilate the endgame. However, if you have an old school supports like Bennett or Sarah, or maybe you don't like reaction at all, or if you like to use animo characters, Clorinde will be more worth it in the long run. Now, who should you pull? It all comes down to your preference in playstyle, the characters that you already have, as well as the weapons you have. You also need to consider the time you want to sacrifice in farming artifacts. I think the cheaper and more efficient and more flexible one is Clorinde, while the more meta character is Alhaitham. At the end of the day, both of them are worth the pull and will surely add value to your account. Have you decided who you will pull? Comment below. Again, this is Earlbedo. See you next time.